Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Butterfly Effect podcast. I'm your host Jack, and I'm here with Liam.
What's up, guys?
And today we are building our very own Dark Pictures Anthology Season 1 character tier list.
So, a few of you, Nikolai requested this, and we had the idea anyway, so we thought we'd go ahead and, put this out. What better time now that The Devil in Me is released? I want us to go ahead and say, we're not sponsored by Honda, so yeah, please don't sue us. And also, no one's made a list with The Devil in Me yet, so far we only have the first 3 games in Man of Medan, House of Ashes and Little Hope. I nearly forgot about the name of the second one there. So I'll be adding those in myself because essentially I'm not building one from scratch, guys. I love you enough to make videos like every week, but I don't love you guys enough to sit here for an hour to build this shit. But nonetheless, we'll get into this. Jack, we're going to start off with Rachel. Now, we've got 6 tiers here. God tier. Fit as a butcher's dog. Good. I didn't really get creative with that one. Couldn't give a fuck. Diabolical. Or go suck an egg. Where does Rachel rank for you, mate?
Oh, it's interesting because you could say this with all of these, but it depends. Are we doing it based on how we like them or how compelling a character they are?
I think it's got to be a bit of both, mate. Because honestly, there's characters like Andrew that I like, but I don't find him compelling, so I'm going to put him quite low. And on the other hand, if you look at, say, I don't know, a game like Until Dawn, you might have... Or maybe Conrad, let's say Conrad. Now, he's quite an unlikable guy, throwing money aboard. I hate that, in any person. But he's a nice character. He has a bit of depth to him, so I'd put him higher, So, yeah, I think we have to consider both things, to be honest, mate.
Okay, Rachel. Cheating on Eric. She's got a bit of spice to her. I remember that one scene with Clarice. She's like, you have to make some pretty ruthless decisions to get where I've had to. So there is a little bit of strength to her. For me, mate, she's somewhere in the middle. She's either good or couldn't give a fuck. I don't know what you think.
You know what? It might enrage some people. I was going to put her in either couldn't give a fuck or diabolical. I think she's got a bit of depth to her. But what I will say is that it's like you said, nail on the head. I really fucking hate cheaters, mate. So, yeah, for me, we'll put her in couldn't give a fuck. Andrew, I'm going to say diabolical. Not go suck an egg, because that's a special place in hell for certain characters. And Andrew doesn't quite cut it. Now, I've always said this in previous videos. People might disagree with me. It's Will Poulter. He's an amazing actor. And I think it was such a waste of his talents. Andrew didn't really bring all that much to the role. He just was this surprised kid who would just go along as kind of this really dull wooden main character. And I was expecting way more from him. And I think, honestly, if any of these generic character models were put in Andrew's place, he would have had such a bad rap. But I feel like loads of people oversee that because it's Will Poulter. So I want to say diabolical, mate. I don't know if you agree with that or if you want to bump him higher.
I do 100% agree. I think Go Suck an Egg would be too harsh. He's just a very bland character, isn't he? Maybe he's purposely like that because obviously, the fact that he has to reach the end and making certain decisions, things. But in that game alone, there's just other... I think colourful would be going too far. But there's other colourful characters around him. And yeah, he doesn't really stand out. So I think Diabolical's about right, mate.
Nice. We move on to Junior. I'll let you kick this one off.
Junior. I wouldn't say he's suck an egg. I mean, the thing is, it's difficult because some characters have more airtime than others, don't they? So I wouldn't go as far as to say go suck an egg. For me, he's either couldn't give a fuck or diabolical. He does have that scene, doesn't he, where he loses his shit, where the gas is in his system and stuff. I would settle with diabolical.
Okay, cool. I mean, I was going to put him in good, so I reckon we'll split him down the middle and we'll maybe put him here because Yeah, he's a nice character. I like Junior. He's almost like the younger of the three pirates that you kind of want to win over. He clearly is being dragged along. You almost can see he's against the whole morals of the group. And yeah, like there's that breath scene at the end where you can give him like the breathalyzer or like the tank or whatever. And I've not quite done that. I can't quite pass the breathing sequences, and I'm really intrigued to see what happens there. So yeah, I'll put him there. Olsen. Now I'm gonna maybe say good because I thought to kickstart the Dark Pictures Anthology, it was such a compelling villain to have because it was quite terrifying that the guy was hallucinating, but he was quite an evil guy, and it was just such a ruthless combo. You can kill some of, your main characters off, like such as Alex and Conrad. So yeah, I'd put him in good, because he's not amazingly compelling, but I did quite like him as a character, mate, as our first nemesis to kickstart the series.
Okay, for some reason, I feel like it would be wrong to put him above Rachel, who we've put in Couldn't Give a Fuck. So mate, I'd probably put him in Couldn't Give a Fuck, and I'd put him in between Rachel and Junior.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I was going to put him in low good, so I reckon he could drop to here. We've got Danny. Now, I'll kickstart this and probably say Diabolical. Out of the three pirates, he was the most forgettable one. He didn't really offer that much. I think he was just sort of killing fodder. Don't know about you, mate.
100% agreed. Do you think he's worse than Andrew?
Out of default, yeah. Andrew really disappointing. He gets more airtime, but yeah, I think Danny would have to go there. Charlie, mate, what do you think for not Charlie Lonnet, Charlie Nobody on the the soldier?
The prologue. Yeah. It's interesting because I've played as Joe as the prologue more times, but obviously I have played Curator's Cut where you can play as Charlie. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't. Is he really diabolical? I mean, obviously they have a bit of fisticuffs at the start, didn't they? They have a bit of a punch up. I feel like we're queuing so many in Couldn't Give a Fuck, but that's probably where I'd put him. Or diabolical.
I was going to put him low, Couldn't Give a Fuck, because I really couldn't. A bit of a nothing character prologue, he's the other one, he doesn't really add that much, he's just kind of there.
Yeah.
John, now, I don't know, like, he was my favourite in the Little Hope mix. Now, that doesn't say a lot, because I thought it was the worst group. However, I'm tempted to put him in good, because at the end of the day, he was a different age bracket, like you mentioned, from the other group. He had that bit of a leader and responsible air about him, so he almost by default had a bit more depth than the other characters. I don't know what you think of that, mate.
Yeah, I like that. He does have leadership qualities, doesn't he? He wants to be seen that way anyway. He has his flaws. He quite clearly has a drinking problem, and there is that scene that makes me stand out to me, where you go into a hut and then a cat scares him and he absolutely bolts it. So, like, I feel like he's one of those characters that wants to be something more than he actually is, and that does make him quite human in a way. So I'd be quite happy for John to sit in good, actually.
Of course. Nah, same here, mate. Nick, now I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to put him either low good or Couldn't Give a Fuck, because the thing with Nick is I thought he was a very bleak character. I didn't like the fact that he was umming and ahhing, throwing his arms around with Eric, because, like, Rachel, who, let's face it, was supposed to be with Eric and, was in a relationship that wasn't disclosed. It ended to Eric. So I really didn't like his attitude about that whole thing. The only thing that really gives him a saving grace to me is that he gets the final cool scene with the bomb. So, like, that for me just doesn't justify him being high bracket. I don't know what you think.
I think for me, he would sit in the Couldn't Give a Fuck category. If I had to put him somewhere, it would probably be between Rachel and Olsen.
I was literally going to say that. I was going to say exactly the same.
Yeah, like, he's knowingly in a relationship with a woman who's cheating on her husband. Plus, out of the whole cast of characters, even if you're including the extra characters, I feel like he's still the most bleak one. So, yeah, I feel like that's a perfect place for him.
Mary, I kind of want to go ahead and say either low good or high couldn't give a fuck. Because the thing with Mary, now I know she's not a playable character, she's not in the main 5, but I feel like she sets the tone for Little Hope, and for me there's very little that's good in Little Hope, but I feel Mary's one of the good things. You know, she adds the horror element of running around, the jump scare in the tunnel in the play park, and then she's possibly the nemesis, as you know, like you go on to like go through the game to find out like what the possession is coming from. So yeah, I don't know, like I'd feel like she would be a low good, mate.
Okay, for me, I think, because the whole game pivots around her, it's essentially, you know, have you forgiven Mary and all this and that. She does offer, as you say, some good jump scares and things. I think, yeah, low good. I feel like this is the thing though. Like for me, it's close to couldn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But I'll edge it into good.
Cool. Next we've got Fliss, mate.
Fliss. Yeah, okay, so yeah, obviously she's very upfront, very forthright, isn't she? She does have leadership qualities. There's the potential for her to have a romantic angle with Conrad. For me, I don't know, I feel like she's almost similar to Mary. I feel like she'd either be low good or high couldn't give a fuck.
Yeah, I was thinking of putting her here because I know like she could be described as quite wooden, but I quite like the fact she was a little different to the rest of the Man and Medan cast. You know, she wasn't a part of the scuba divers, she was just a part of the, you know, she's the person with the boat and got wrapped up in the mess that she wasn't supposed to be there. She brought that level of maturity that the rest of the group, minus Brad, I would say, didn't really have, and I quite like that with Fliss.
Yeah, she's very much a stickler for the rules, wasn't she, when they were talking disturbing everything under the water and that. So yeah, like she did have something about
her. Next, mate, we have Kurum from the House of Ashes prologue.
Not much to say here really. For me, Balathu just stands out more. I don't know if that's biased because of theatrical cut versus curator, but he'd be in one of the lower two for me, mate.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I was going to put him above Charlie and couldn't give a fuck. I feel like he deserves to be higher than Charlie, because at least he had the kind of the combat nature, and I don't know, I just found him more interesting than Charlie. But I am willing to move Charlie down to Diabolical. We can change as we go, mate.
Yeah, I don't know, because I feel like maybe because Charlie and Joe did have a lot of conversation at the... I mean, I know he does talk to Balathu as well. Maybe I'm just being biased, and it sort of sticks out more with the two privates in the army. But
cool. I'll move him here then. We'll put him lower, and but I'll keep him and couldn't give a fuck. But no, I do agree. Like to be honest, character-wise, you know, prologue-wise, it wasn't really about the characters, was it? But obviously, this is where these guys aren't going to fall into a high bracket in these tier lists. Next, mate, we have the curator. I mean, I'll let you take this one away. Where you want to put him?
For me, I'm going to put him in... It's either going to be God tier or fit as a butcher's dog. If it's in God tier, I imagine it would be towards the lower end. And I think it's because, you know, look at the guy. He's dressed well. He has this air of prestige about him. Just the way he holds himself. He's got a beautiful repository. He comes out with all these various quotes from this old literature. He can help you, obviously, as the player too. And I think that, you know, the Pip Torrens, who obviously does the voice, really adds to all of that in terms of his character. So I'll leave it with you, mate.
I'll put him in fit as a butcher's dog, only because we've seen half of him. You know, he might do stuff in season 2 that we don't like, that might reduce him. He might do amazing things. Like, he's kind of in a wait and see bracket. But whenever he's on screen, I love it. You know, he definitely brings a different dynamic and a really welcome change of pace to the game. I love the fact that, like, Lacriminosa is playing in the background. You know, just, yeah, like you say, beautiful scenes. So, yeah, I'll put him here for the moment.
Also, I think, I was going to say, mate, also, we want to be nice to him because after his WWE exploits, you know, he could just jump at the desk and hand our ass to us. So, yeah, Curator, you're all good, mate.
Right, Taylor, mate. Now, I mean, I'll kickstart this one. I'm probably going to say Diabolical, mate. For a main, I expect my main 5 characters to have some level of depth to them, and Taylor just didn't have that other than being a little impatient and in love with Daniel. I just didn't feel anything for her.
Yeah, she annoyed me as well, particularly at the start of the game when she was constantly whinging about going back to the bus. And like John was having to say, what's the point in going back to the bus? Let's go to Little Hope, get some help. And she just wouldn't let it drop. Yeah, you're right. There's not much else to her in that she's in a relationship with Daniel. And even times then it feels like she's messing him around a little bit. So, very happy to put her in Diabolical. But I would say that she's perhaps better than Andrew. Maybe you agree with that or not?
Andrew's more likeable, but I almost want to punish the fact that Will Poulter wasn't given that, level of... Actually, Will Poulter isn't budging here. Oh my, there we go, right. Andrew's like, I'm not worse than Taylor. But I agree, we need to punish Andrew for being a really lame, main lead character, Right, we've got Carver, mate. Now, Carver's an interesting one, because whenever he was on scene, I really enjoyed it, He was quite an interesting villain, like the way he was accusing everyone. So yeah, I'd put him maybe low good. I don't find him too interesting, but I certainly find he has a different dynamic and, aura about him that's better than the majority of these characters for sure.
I'd put him in the good category as well. I'd put him perhaps above Mary, but behind Fliss.
I was thinking the same, mate. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Vince, mate. Vince is an interesting one, because if you think about it, his whole thing is he's a bit of a fake out, right? He throws you off. He's the one real thing about Little Hope, which is interesting. So, when you play the game, he's given this air of being a creepy guy who just cycles through the town and you want to kind of avoid him. But by the end, it turns out he's the most sane thing in the game. And I actually quite like that. The idea of looking back at Vince in a new light. So, I'm kind of actually weirdly tempted, mate, to put him in either low good or high couldn't give a fuck.
I would put him, or Vince. It is, I think in terms of spot, you're absolutely right. Go above Rachel for me. Does he go...
Maybe between Nick and Rachel,
That's what I was thinking, mate, yeah.
Cool. Balafu, mate, what do you think of him?
I'd probably put him in between Charlie and, is it Curran? The other guy that was in the House of Ashes prologue in Couldn't Give a Fuck?
Yeah, because, I'd put him above Charlie, to be honest, so I'm happy to put him here. Yeah, like you said, exact same as Curran, and we probably see him a lot more, because I think you have to basically be good at the QTEs to get him in the end, rather than Curran. So I haven't even seen a House of Ashes game with Curran as the main villain, to be honest, so, but yeah, interesting prologue character, to be honest.
You know what? You might have a point to put him above. I know it's literally only moving up one spot, but he does have that thing at the start, doesn't he, where he gets told that that's his daughter.
Yeah.
And that puts a dynamic on him, because he's thinking, is it my daughter? And it carries on. The choice doesn't matter, because the woman gets speared anyway. But it gives a little bit more depth to him than I think Charlie would have otherwise had. Yeah,
it almost has another layer of sadness when you have to go against him in a way, because he almost was an innocent person. We go over to one of the fan favourites, mate, Jason Kolchak.
Yeah, for me, I'd put him in the fit as a butcher's dog category, probably after the Curator.
I was thinking the exact same.
Yeah, I just think, he does come across as that typical arrogant American, doesn't he, at the start? And then, as the game goes on, obviously depends how you play it, he then starts to warm to Salim. He's definitely action-orientated. He's got a bit of a bromance or brotherly relationship with Nick. And I think as well, he's that sort of outsider of the love triangle. So he's the one that almost navigates relationships with everyone in the group, even though he's not directly involved in each of these things.
Yeah, sick, mate. I completely agree. I really liked the kind of the evolution of his kind of philosophies in a way. Him warming up to Salim, while they were at each other's throats at the start. And it was really nice to see him run back for him. But there's still a few things there which doesn't make him an absolute groundbreaking god tier character. Still could do with a bit more work. We go over to, I think her name's Clarice.
Yep.
I liked Clarice. She was a nice contrast from the House of Ashes, like, male heavy group, I think you play as 4 guys and 1 girl, and she was the only one to accompany Rachel, really. She goes missing for quite a big part of the game, so she doesn't deserve to be massively high, but yeah, you know what, she was quirky, she could bite back, and when she was on screen I actually really enjoyed her lines, so I'd probably put her in somewhere in good, maybe, actually. Maybe low good, though.
I would probably say that she sits in between Carver and Fliss, for me. I'd certainly say she's above Mary.
Yeah. Cool. Right, so Joey, mate, where would you put him?
Oh, he's a bit of a scaredy cat, isn't he? Other than that, I mean, to be fair, I think the whole ensemble of House of Ashes was decent to good. So I would probably. He does turn into a vampire as well, so there's not a lot to go on. I'd put him above Mary, but not as good as Carver. So I'd probably put him in between them two. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. I know we have to get used to the characters' faces, but this guy's appeared in every game, and I think when we saw him again, I just was really sick of it. I was like, on this guy again, come on. But yeah, probably one of the weaker of the House of Ashes lot, but I certainly prefer him to Rachel and Nick, I'd say. He just kind of acts as that little cog of, being a bro to Merwin and Jason, but there's nothing wrong with that. I kind of agree. He should have been the one to get killed off first, but yeah, nothing more than that. When we talk about Conrad, I'd probably say either top of good or bottom of fit as a butcher's dog, because I really liked Shawn Ashmore's performance here. It was quite refreshing to see that good bad character, if he's throwing money in the water, if he's being quite cocky to the pirates. It was a really nice change of scene. But, I wouldn't hang out with the guy. He's a bit of a knob.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think let's add him on to fit as a butcher's dog at the lower end. And then, I don't know, maybe that's one we could revisit and put him at the top of good. Because I think, that's probably roughly where he sits.
Angela, mate, where does Angela sit for you?
Angela, again, she can go on a bit of a character arc. She can be sort of that typical whining old woman at the start. But then I swear there's a point she says that she does it because she wants to be noticed because she's getting older still. Which, again, is a very humane thing, same to John with his flaws. I think that they sit near one another. I personally was more engaged with Angela's character than I was Fliss. But maybe not as much as Clarice.
Yeah, we'll do that. I reckon she probably maybe sits a bit below Fliss for me, but I'll go with that because I agree. My thing with Angela is that at the very start, I just didn't get why she was against Daniel and Taylor, almost like they weren't allowed to have a relationship, and I just didn't understand why she had to stick up her butt, to be honest. But like we mentioned, it was nice to get an older character in. I really liked that, and she was almost believable. We probably all know a woman that's slightly like Angela, probably heavily religious, quite condescending, and quite set in the older ways, and just not very proud of new things. But yeah, it's a welcome change. I certainly preferred her to Andrew, I'm not gonna lie. We've got Brad. Now, Brad's an interesting one. He's probably my favourite out of the 5 in Man of Medan, because I kind of leaned over to his introverted, nerdy side. A little more wooden than the others. I'd say he's weaker than Conrad, better than Fliss. So I'm actually tempted to put him maybe one below John. I don't know about you.
I think that's about right. Yeah, he's the one that the player. I'm pretty sure. Don't you play as Brad first?
I think
and you
so.
you relate to him the most. So yeah, I think that's about right, mate.
Eric, mate.
Eric, I really liked Eric at first, and I felt very sorry for him. He's put in a leadership position which brings its own troubles. He's being cheated on. He's trying to clearly do well with this mission in sort of the whole war effort with Hussein. I'm going to put him, because he was one of my favourites, I think that he goes, for me at least, between Brad and Clarice.
Yeah.
What about you?
He's an odd one for me, and I really don't know where to stick the guy, because I agree, like, I feel bad for the guy, but I do feel like there's that element of the fact that when you can kill him off, he becomes very absent. I feel like from scanning the bat thing with the UV light, strongly after that, even if he stays alive in your game, he doesn't do all that much, and it's almost like he's supposed to be killed off in a way, because the game very much becomes about Jason and Salim. But yeah, like, I'd put him there. I think that's a fair shout, mate. Where would you put is it Joe?
Joe, isn't it?
Joe, yeah, that's his name.
Whereabouts is Charlie? So he's on couldn't give a fuck. Yeah, I think he's definitely this category for me.
I'd put him above Charlie.
I think, yeah, naturally, because he's the one you play as, but he's not as strong as Balafu, so yeah, I'm very comfortable with that one, mate.
Right, I mean, I'll start it with Daniel, mate. We all know my thoughts.
No negotiations. Go suck an egg. Oh god, he's got his own category.
You know what, Daniel, while we're on the character one, go and fuck yourself, have a bit of depth to you. You've got, like, a dad that he, like, played football, he had the same key ring. That's about as far as your character goes. Your personality is as boring as your red t-shirt. You don't even deserve to be in Go Suck an Egg, because that would be an insult to Egg. You get your own category, and yeah, I hope you're happy with yourself. Jack doesn't even get a say in this. I'm not budging my opinion on Daniel.
No, it's alright. It's an ongoing channel gag, and it's like, I feel like for me it was Conrad in the WWE thing, but I'm not that bad with Conrad, whereas you and Daniel, it's just like a marriage made in hell, so yeah.
Yeah, and then the fact he eliminated me in the fucking WWE video.
Yeah.
We have Salim, mate. Now, you know what, I'll let you kickstart this one.
See, this is going to come down to opinion. For me, he's probably fit as a butcher's dog, high end. For me, there's not a lot in God tier, and I think the fact that he's obviously on his own, he even goes against his leader, Dar. He then tries to implement this whole, we work together to solve the problem thing, which is noble, because he's the only Iraqi and he's surrounded by Americans. He's got a nice backstory because he's got a son. You know what? The more I'm talking about him, the more I'm thinking that he's actually God tier, but low-end God tier.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to put him in fit as a butcher's dog. That might be controversial, but for me, I'm being really strict here. Now, God tier for me would be probably, I feel like maybe like the blockbuster characters would end up in there, like, from Until Dawn and Quarry, or at least some of them. I feel with Salim, as much as I love him, he kind of has that philosophical kind of like nature about him, and he almost changes Jason, and it's really refreshing to see like an American and an Iraqi kind of go against the monsters together. I still feel I would want a bit more from him. Maybe he's restricted by the fact he's in jeopardy and he's a soldier, so he doesn't kind of get any like gags about him. I don't know, but yeah, definitely high tier character. Maybe the best one out of the lot. I would put him probably above the curator, mate. But I would say a high fit as a butcher's dog.
Oh, for it, put him in there.
You're probably gonna, crucify me, guys. I'm very sorry. This is our opinion. It's all subjective. There's no right answer here. But obviously, feel free to justify why you think Salim should be in a different category. Same as all these other ones. Right, I'll go Alex. Now, I'll probably put him in Diabolical, mate. I think, like, he's very wooden. He's probably the worst out of the Man and Medan 5, in my opinion. I would also go as far as to say that the only really depth thing he has about him is that he's just a very intense guy. Like, he'll pry Julia a bunch of times. It's actually quite interesting if you get the proposal rejected, because he just becomes this very bitter, annoying character that just whines. I would put him maybe... I don't know, to be honest, mate, I could put him in Go Suck an Egg.
Really?
Maybe low Diabolical, wow. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Alex.
Oh, right, okay. See, for me, I mean, again, it depends on whether it's to do with likability or how compelling they are. It would feel very wrong for me to put him beneath the prologue, House of Ashes and Man of Medan characters. But they are more likeable than him. So it's really weird. I'd probably put him in either, Diabolical or Couldn't Give a Fuck.
Alright, well, our compromise would be Diabolical, so it's just about where he ranks.
Yeah.
Higher than Taylor?
I think Taylor's worse than him, so maybe he should be at the top of Diabolical.
Alright, I'll accept that, because, my views are just very extreme on him, and if I gave it some thought, it probably, But, alright, we've got Merwin next, mate.
I love Merwin. He's one of the best bonus characters in that they've ever done, in my opinion. I loved his humour. I loved how direct he was. He just had a personality that was so different from the rest of the pack. So for me, he's definitely in the good category. I'd perhaps argue I prefer him to John. I'd put him that high up. What about you?
I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. Now, I think we have to remember as well that when we first had these games, that Man of Medan and Little Hope were very sort of like just that cast. Other than sort of the Pirates and Vince, we didn't really have any other external characters. But yeah, like House of Ashes did so well because it threw all these external characters at us that were within the group. And Merwin, he was just a very enjoyable lad, and I loved his back and forth nature with Clarice and how Clarice had put him in his place a lot. And also the extra bonus, the fact that you could, get him in your game and get a trophy for him to fix the radio was just a nice little touch that I never knew existed. So yeah, we'll put him in high good. Now we end this bunch, from the first 3 games on Julia, mate. Now where would you put Julia?
Julia, she can reject a proposal. I don't know. She's obviously the sister of Connor. Again, she actually comes across quite bland for me. So I think that she would either be in Diabolical or Couldn't Give a Fuck. I feel like I've said that so many times in this thing.
But do you think that speaks volumes of the game? Like, I feel like, especially the earlier games, the characters were fairly weaker, so I feel like this is always going to be a very bottom-heavy list, guys, but that's just our opinion, We're critics here, and we're basically holding out for great characters to come in so we can put them in God tier, right? I mean, I would kind of echo what you say. I think she's better than Alex. I would put her in Couldn't Give a Fuck, and I'd probably put her between Junior and Balafi, mate.
Yeah, I can live with that. That's fair.
I feel like, for me, the main 5 have to have, like, kind of a higher standard, because you're playing as them, And I feel like, I'm willing to be a lot more lenient to the characters you don't play as, which is why someone like Carver, Mary, or even Merwin plays as high as they do. That's just my honest opinion. What we'll do is, mate, we're going to go for the Devil in Me. Now, I couldn't have him. Like I said, I couldn't make him. So what I'll do is I'll say them and I'll place them in. Now, I won't be able to edit them in, but I'll just kind of put pictures where I think they are. Now, mate, where would you put Jamie?
Jamie. See, the thing is, funnily enough, I know that they've got the exact same face model. She does remind me of Fliss, in a way. So where is Fliss? She's in the good category. I don't think she can go much higher than that, personally. She's got a whole thing with Erin, a dig. Again, very forthright. I like the fact that her and Kate, she's a sacrificial lamb. She puts herself in the firing line to lure the killer out. I don't know, it was almost like her character for me didn't deliver the knockout blow. So I feel like she's in the good category, and she's somewhere slap bang in the middle of that.
Yeah, like, personally, guys, I'd probably put her at the top of good, because I really liked the Devil in Me bunch. I thought they were the best characters out of the, these first 4 games. Yeah, like, one of the weaker of the 5. Not the weakest, I'd put her, like, the 4th out of them, guys. I just think that, she's probably got, like, I don't know, but from the dialogues I had, she had the least depth in terms of, like, ambition, what she wanted to do, why she was there. I just felt she was just better than one of the characters. I thought her sarcastic nature was really going to wear thin on me, because at the start of the game, I was really getting exhausted with her comments. But once she was thrown in jeopardy, I quite liked her and how she handled herself. So yeah, I'd put her above Merwin, but in good, not higher at all. Now, Kate Wilder, mate, I would probably put her either high good or low fit as a butcher's dog. I think Jessie Buckley's performance was really good. I just think, other than her being kind of like a starry-eyed presenter who was just really angry at Charlie, wanted to get off the island and went into survival mode, I don't know, maybe I could have had a bit more from her, but I definitely wouldn't say she's god tier. So yeah, high good or low fit as a butcher's dog, but certainly above Jamie, I would say.
Yes, I think for me she's high good. Even to get into a fit as a butcher's dog category, for me you really needed to have either gone on a character arc, be likeable, or have a load of depth. And obviously for me, I did kill her off like not long after halfway through the game, so that is naturally going to work against her. And I think just looking at the good category now, I think she fits in there more than the fit as a butcher's dog one, so I'd say high good.
Okay, yeah, sweet, an agreement there. We'll go with Erin. Now, Erin's a tough one for me, mate, because I thought she was going to be my favourite out of the 5. I was really drawn to that like shy nature she brought to the game. I quite like the fact she challenged Charlie a little bit. She wasn't a complete pushover. She was telling Charlie like, oh, maybe you need a personal assistant, I want to be doing more. But it's tough for me to judge because I haven't seen too much of her, and if she survives in the game, I really hope that she doesn't become this absolute background character. But you know what, I would go to say I'd put her in high good again. I'd say probably exactly where I'd put Kate, above Merwin. How about you?
Oh, would I put her above Merwin? I mean, again, because he's a bonus character, so it's hard to judge. But yeah, very likeable. I'd echo everything you said, and the fact as well that when I played with her in the maze scene, she does start to almost psychoanalyse the killer a little bit by saying, that he is mute and that it's because of a conflict in his identity. So, she's got some smarts to her, and she's likeable. She's an intern, we've all been there. We're at the bottom of the pecking order, trying to work their way up. So yeah, I think she's high good. I think I prefer her to Kate Wilder, personally. So wherever Kate Wilder goes, I'd personally put her above her. But
okay, no. Cool, man. How about Mark for yourself?
Mark. Now, for me, he's the weakest of the 5 in The Devil in Me. So, by no means is he bad. I mean, they did try with him, didn't they? He's afraid of heights. He's got a bit of a thing for Kate. But, when I think about iconic scenes in The Devil in Me, Mark's never in them, and that does go a long way. So, if I'm honest, mate, I'd probably put him in couldn't give a fuck. That might be a bit harsh, but probably on the high end of couldn't give a fuck. What about you?
Yeah, I would do the same, or a very low good, because I think he deserves to be higher than Joe and Mary, probably even Angela, mate. Yeah, because like you say, he's just a cameraman, he's still into Kate, had this ambition thing, and I know we can get a secret ending with him, which probably adds him more depth, but yeah, the bleakest of the 5, and it was kind of, I was a little bummed to find out he was the one with the plot armor. We'll go to Charlie Lonnet next, mate. Now I know you're a big fan of him. Where would you put him?
God tier. I love Charlie Lonnet. I think it's mainly because of the delivery of Paul Kay. He's got some absolutely banging one-liners that I love. The fact that, I don't know, maybe it's my British bias coming out, but he's got that edge to him where he gets so frustrated, whether it's either with himself or with others, and things are not going his way, he's getting out of control, he's quite temperamental, you know, he sort of takes it out on the wall and his foot. And yeah, like, I don't know, I think a lot of it is to do with Paul Kay, to be honest, mate, if I was to sum it up in a line. But yeah, I was just sold by his performance, and when you get consistently emotional reactions out of me in a movie or a game or whatever, you're going to be more memorable, and I think that's why he would sit God tier.
Yeah, I was torn between high fit as a butcher's dog or God tier, so we'll go and stick him in God tier, mate. Yeah, like echoing everything you said, fantastic character, loved him. Certainly the strongest of the five for me. Maybe we're biased because it's just that British thing. I know a lot of people have said, oh yeah, he's a bit of a dick, but honestly, like, I think in Britain he'd get away as standard, you know? Like, you have to take everything he says with a pinch of salt. He still does care about the four. I know he's responsible for putting them on the island, but, you know, he's just a man who's just dedicated to his work that really wants this film to, or this series to, like, take off. Like you say, the British sayings are just incredible, whether he's frustrated at the dog or he's just desperate for a cigarette. Every line delivery from Paul Kay was just so refreshing. And yeah, absolutely love this character. Charlie, we'll put him in God tier. Now, we'll double whammy this one, mate. We've got Marie and we've got Jeff.
Marie and Jeff.
I'm only double whammying them because I think they're roughly the same. One's not better than the other, right? I think they're a pair.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they get a minus mark from me when they break into that room, even though they've just been offered an upgrade, that goes against them. They seem innocent enough, they seem in love, they seem happy, obviously a day being married. Yeah, but other than that, I can't think of anything that jumps out.
Because I think they're not meant to be high, are they? Like, at the end of the day, no. They're two people who are in love, and they just play those love struck, you know, like lambs walking into a slaughterhouse, and they deliver that role very well. But like, that's all they are, so you can't put them too high.
Yeah, they're plot devices and nothing more, really.
Yeah.
So
maybe Lowe couldn't give a fuck.
I'd say he couldn't give a fuck. Yeah.
Right, we'll go for Grantham Dumas, the killer in the game, mate.
Yes, the unkillable Grantham Dumas. Cool mask, love the aesthetic. Obviously, he's absolutely brutal. Very intelligent as well, how he's got this whole thing set up. It's like a computer in itself, with all the changing walls and the traps and things. And he clearly has some sort of teleport device where he's able to get across from one part of the island to the other in no time at all. I'd put him as a good character, mate. Probably high good.
Yeah, I'd put him like maybe like, I'm trying to think, maybe between Eric and Brad, or Brad and Clarice, because I got really tired of him. You know, I've not been scared to voice that, of just the way he would be with every survivor. He would just find his way in every scene, and I got really tired of him just being a shadow in the background for style effect. But yeah, like, very strong character. I quite like the fact as well he was a killer and he wasn't supernatural. That was really refreshing to see. So yeah, I'd say good, but I'd put him mid-good.
Yeah, I think as well, it's tough because obviously you don't hear anything from him, do you? But if you think about his character, he's got a very dark backstory. He grew up with a single parent. He had child behaviour issues. He'd become an FBI agent. which, you know, not everyone becomes one of those. So he's had like a troubled time, also a decorated time to get to the profession that he was in, and then it's tailed off again and he's become this killer, and, you know, people are fascinated with killers. So yeah, I think somewhere in good, mate.
How about Henry Holmes' prologue character?
I'm going to say that he's good as well, and I'm very surprised that we only saw him in the prologue. I thought that there would be somehow like some flashback scene or harkening back to him in some way in the main body of the game. But the guy who did the voice of Holmes was almost like absolutely perfect in terms of their delivery, where it gave that, it was in that awkward grey area where you could interpret it as nice but also sinister, and given you knew who he was, like that was just like the perfect balance. Obviously you then do see him become a killer, quite sadistic and quite psychopathic, how he walks back to the door and he goes, "Sorry sir, is there a problem?" And it's like, well yeah, of course there is, like, you've just killed my wife. And then the fact that he watches them both die at the end as well, that's something very dark. So he won't go very high on the likeable front. In terms of what he does in a short time, I'd put him in the high good area, mate.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I'd actually rate him higher than Grantham, even though we see him less, because, like, just everything you've said, mate, I can't say it more perfectly than you did. His delivery was just absolutely exceptional. He gave a really chilling atmosphere, and he struck that really good balance of being accommodating to the prologue fodder while being sinister as he did it, and I think that's actually quite a tough skill to do. So yeah, hats off to, well, not the actual Henry Holmes, I'm not praising a killer, but this character in the game. We'll move on to Morello, mate. I mean, I'll kickstart this one. I'll put him somewhere in couldn't give a fuck. Like, I wasn't a fan of the fact that, I just feel like they could have done a better job at making it more subtle, that he was leading us on the island and then he could have bolted. I feel like that would have sufficed, but the fact that they made him overly panicky, there was just constant shots. Everything he did, like the detailed lines of just him like having a go at the group or being scared of the cameras or saying, "Nah, hurry up." He just acted too fidgety, that he just like clearly, like, I don't know, just went overboard with that. There's something wrong with this island, and it really just, I wasn't a fan of it. I thought it was absolutely hilarious when he said no cameras and then he just decides to run into the shot. So yeah, I would put him in, I mean, he's a plot device guy as well, so I think diabolical would be too harsh. I'd put him in couldn't give a fuck, probably between Julia and Balafu.
Yeah, exactly, and he's impersonating someone else, isn't he? So you have to take everything with a pinch of salt. Obviously, given the situation he's in, you know, if you were put in that situation, you could sort of understand what he was doing, but as wrong as it is. But yeah, over panicky, and I think the fact that even in the gameplay, I was thinking, nah, this isn't Dume right off the bat. Whether that was intentional or not, I don't know, but just even the whole facial expression and demeanour, I was like, this isn't a calculated killer, this is someone else. So I think, yeah, couldn't give a fuck would be about right.
Sick, mate. And we capped the video off with Connie, mate. I mean, god tier, right?
Dog tier.
Dog tier, yeah. we're not putting Connie anywhere else. I mean, you know, I'd probably put Charlie above because, you know, like, you've got the lines and stuff, but it's a dog. I'm not going to say anything more.
Exactly, 100%. We love dogs, don't we? So, absolutely, Connie goes in god tier / dog tier.
Fantastic. I mean, so yeah, guys, this is our list. I'll link in the description the same tier list, so you can go ahead and make your own ones. We're hoping that soon someone makes a new one with the Devil in Me characters, so you can get a more, you know, kind of a cleaner version than we had to deal with here. But yeah, let us know what you thought of our list, guys. There's going to be some different opinions in here. Everything's subjective. This is just Jack and my compromise. So yeah, I'd be really interested to see like which ones we got dramatically wrong in your eyes and which ones you agreed with. Anything to mention there, Jack?
No, I don't think so, apart from do keep an eye out for upcoming videos. We're going to be pumping out so many regarding season 1, Devil in Me, speculation for season 2. So yeah, do stay tuned on the channel.
Thank you very much, guys. We hope you enjoyed this different video. It's the first character list we've ever done, and we'll be sure to make more in the future if you guys enjoyed this one. Thank you very much for joining, and see us in our other Devil in Me videos.
Take care, guys.